I'm a singer, I'm a drummer. Either of those two would do.
Welcome to the A to Z of Phil Collins.
I'll take it a check, but I prefer the cash.
The idea behind this podcast is to take a journey through the life and music of Phil Collins.
When I said yes to do the job, it was just to write the songs. But as I did the demos, they decided they couldn't see anybody else singing them.
We'll talk about events like Band Aid.
It was an ego-free day.
Pay tribute to friends like Eric Clapton and Robert Plant, and tackle subjects including reunions, gorillas, and the importance of a good drum fill. Stories, songs, memories, each one represented by a different letter from A to Z.
I always used to watch the Oscars, and you wonder what it's like to be up there, and then suddenly you get an opportunity.
And the winner is...
Everything I've done has been really a bit like jazz.
This is the A to Z of Phil Collins podcast.
With me, Phil Collins.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the A to Z of Phil Collins. I'm your host, Matt Everett, and appropriately enough, my guest is Phil Collins himself. In this podcast, we'll be going through the A to Z of Phil's life and career so far, picking out different moments, songs and stories, some of which you may have heard, some I'm pretty sure you haven't. So thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll be good company, and I guess the best place to start is with the letter A. A is for the Action, maybe the first band that Phil fell in love with.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Beatles, of course, which could be B. But the Action were brilliant. I obviously must have caught them by accident at a gig in the Marquee Club when they were supporting someone. But I became a complete fan of theirs. And they issued singles, and eventually an album that they had recorded was released. And I remember Al Clark, the very famous publicist, who was with the Sex Pistols, and he was also with Virgin and with me when I signed for Virgin. He drove down to my house in Guildford, and on my car bonnet he laid a copy of the Action album, which had just come out. And when I came out to drive somewhere, it was like finding the Holy Grail. It was fantastic. And I got to know them. And Roger, the drummer, who was a huge influence, is still a great friend of mine. So they were a fantastic band. You had to see them.
It's that soul and rock and roll thing at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was soul and Motown, and it was all the records that were coming in from America. And I used to go and check out the original records because theirs weren't available, and they used to play a fantastic selection of songs. So I went out and collected the originals and had a great record collection, and that's how my love of Motown particularly started. And my school band played this stuff, and me and the singer Peter, we used to go together, and then we'd listen to their set, and anything we didn't know, we made up. So we went back to school the next day, for a band rehearsal, and we'd just make up whatever we didn't know, because we usually knew the highlights of the song, but lyrics and stuff, and middle eights and all that, we didn't know, so we just made it up. But they were a fantastic band.
Didn't you fund a book about the Action just so you could read it?
The George Harrison Monty Python thing about wanting to see the film, so he funded Life of Brian. I mean, they reformed, which is when I finally got in touch with Roger, the pal, the drummer, and they couldn't afford to edit the film together of their reform gig, So I paid for that. And then they wanted to, they thought, at the offer of putting a book together. So, I funded that because I wanted to read it. It was like anything I could get hold of because it was so scarce when they were actually active first time round. So, yeah, I did. Quite proud of that. You're listening to the A to Z of Phil Collins with me, Phil Collins.
B. B is for Band-Aid, the most famous charity song of all time, which featured Phil on drums, and a song that legend has it he recorded in just one take.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard it in the control room, and, I guess Midge, go out there and have a go. So I went out into the studio. It was very intimidating because all the musicians that were there were hanging around in the studio. So, and they didn't have headphones. So really you got one guy going out and playing the drums and everyone else just listening to that. They're not hearing the track. And I guess, I don't remember, but maybe there was some terror involved. When you got a bunch of musicians sitting in a room watching you, you kind of try to do your best. So I did it. I did one take, and then I went in to listen to it, and I said, Mitch said, yeah, sounds great. Bob Geldof said, yep. I said, okay, I'll do it again, because I can probably, trim a little bit and just finesse it a little bit. And they said, well, why? Why do you want to do it again for? So I said, because that's what I normally do, do one take and then maybe do it again, but that was it, that would be it. They said, no, don't worry about it, it sounds great. And that was it. I mean, it took longer to set the drums up than it did to play them, I don't remember there being any mistakes, otherwise I would have insisted on doing it again, I just felt that I should know the tune a bit better before. I mean, no one knew what was going to happen to it. I mean, everybody knew what they hoped was going to happen to it, but nobody really knew. And there was a formidable bunch of people there, really. That's when I met Sting and Bono was there. Everyone was very nice to each other, even though we all came from different kind of areas of music.
Because everyone's always says about what an amazing day it was, but you're always watching it thinking, that's a lot of egos in one place at one time.
Yeah, but nobody really strutted, not that I saw anyway. I mean, they did the singing stuff with Boy George and Paul Young and, the Durans and everybody and the Spandaus. But no, it was, I mean, as far as I was concerned, it was an ego-free day. And sometimes people behave themselves when they're around other musicians,
B is for Both Sides of the Story.
Find yourself in the gutter in our lonely part of town. We did waits in the darkness with a weapon to cut some stranger down. Sleeping with an empty bottle, he's a sad and an empty-hearted man. He needs a job with a little respect, so he could get out while he can. We always need to hear both sides of the story.
C is for Collard and Collard, a very special 1829 piano.
Yeah, Collard and Collard, straight strung. Collard and Collard. My Aunt Daisy, she left it to me. It's the piano that I learnt to play the piano on. I mean, we had one at home, it was an upright, but this was a grand piano in her kind of parlour in Chiswick. And I used to go there every Saturday for piano lessons, which frustrated her a little bit. I mean, we got on fantastically well, but it frustrated her because she could tell when I was reading and when I was playing because of memory. And really, once I heard it and knew where the notes were, I never read it again, which is a drawback if you're trying to read music or learn to read music. So, but anyway, when she died, she left me the piano, and it's now in storage because, I had it restored at one point, but it was falling apart. So, but I've still got it, and that's the piano that's on the first two albums, and a couple of mics that probably weren't the correct mics to use. I didn't know what I was doing. I just was trying to get, a nice noise, and but that was the piano that was there.
You should get it out again. You should try and use it. Instruments should be played, surely.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, I have a piano at home, but when something is an antique, sometimes it's not good to have sort of 6, 8-year-olds and sort of, 12-year-olds banging them.
D is for Dance into the Light.
It's there in the eyes of the children. Yeah, my face is smiling in the windows. You can come on out, come on up on my door. Wash away the tears of freedom. Now we're here, there's no turning back. We have each other, we have one voice. Hand in hand we will lay the track, because the train is coming to carry you home. Come dance with me. Come on and dance into the light. Oh.
D is for Disney and winning an Academy Award for You'll Be in My Heart from the film Tarzan. I was watching your Academy Award, your Oscar speech. You're so emotional in that speech. It's quite, you sort of walk up and you can tell you're proud and pleased. And then it's almost like it gets the better of you. It's almost like you realise quite how big it is as you're accepting the award.
Yeah. Well, that's probably, it is true. I haven't watched it again.
It's lovely. It's really nice.
But, I mean, I always used to watch the Oscars and when the earlier songs were up, like Two Hearts and Against All Odds, I was in the audience. And, you wonder what it's like to be up there, and then suddenly you get an opportunity. And you get up there and, and you see Warren Beatty, you see Jack Nicholson, you see your life in front of you, people that you grew up watching, and they're there, applauding you because you won, So it was, and my kids were there. It was an emotional moment. I mean, I remember when, I was side of the stage with Randy Newman, because he had a song up for Toy Story 2. And, he'd been there like 13 times, and I'd been there a couple of times. But, when Cher opened the envelope and said, and the Oscar goes to, and not, I remember thinking, life goes slowly suddenly. Oh, God. And I went out, and yeah, it's hard to believe, but very proud moment, very proud of it. And, the film did incredibly well, and, it all was a happy ending.
As opposed to having that thing where the camera's on you and you haven't won and you've got to do the really pleased, dead pleased for you face that someone else goes up to pick it up.
Well, it is, there's a bit like that. I mean, I was standing next to Randy Newman and I did feel sorry for him because of the amount of times he'd been up there. And it was a lovely song, beautifully sung by Sarah McLachlan. And, it was just, I just felt bad for him and grateful that, enough people, I mean, it's not a huge academy, there's only about 5,000 people. And so, and I didn't vote for me. I had a voting slip, obviously, because I'm in the academy, and I didn't vote for anybody, because if I'd have won, which I did, but I would never have known if I just won by one vote. So I couldn't handle that, I just wanted to be there for the right reasons, so I didn't vote.
Did you really record You'll Be in My Heart in Italian, Spanish, French and German?
Castilian Spanish.
Sorry, that was it, extra one, Castilian Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, that's quite a lot of work.
Well, you don't think about this when you say yes to doing the job. I mean, when I said yes to do the job, originally, it was just to write the songs. But as I did the demos to show them what the songs could sound like, they slowly fell in love with my demos. And in the end, apparently, they decided and they couldn't see anybody else singing them. So you do the job, had a lot of fun, did the English versions, and then someone says, Phil, have you met our international office? So I had a meeting with them, and they went to like 50-odd languages, And I remember saying, I can't do this. I've never sung in another language. And they just said, well, what about our biggest markets? And they chose 4 or 5, and that seemed doable. And we did the whole thing in a week, like a language every couple of days, basically. I had to come back and redo some because, the French being the way the French are, this is the kind of stuff that the kids grow up listening to it, so you don't want to teach them bad habits. So I had to redo some of the French and, a little bit of Italian. I don't remember exactly, but I remember the French. And it was kind of tricky to get it completely right. And then in Brother Bear, which I did, the next film I did with them, we took on a Japanese song, my song, but in Japanese. And that was difficult. The Japanese were quite interesting because when you start the song, the Japanese, translator and kind of the guy that was my coach said, this guy must be Japanese. It's fantastic, and so I thought, this is easy, because Japanese is the kind of language you can write down phonetically.
Right, okay.
It's all very percussive, and if you write it down correctly, you've got a good, better than 50% chance of getting it right. He was very impressed until we went into the studio, and then you learn that the Japanese don't like saying no, they don't want to offend you. So it's like, so I was there for, longer doing the one song in Japanese than I was probably the whole thing, it took a while to get it right. But, and I did it in the German and the French and the Spanish, as well. Fortunately, I didn't sing all the songs in Brother Bear. You're listening to the A to Z of Phil Collins with me, Phil Collins.
D is for Don't Lose My Number. D's for Don't Lose My Number. And if you have a look at this is on YouTube. People post comments on the song, and I wanted to ask if you would read those out and react to them, because it's really interesting seeing what people put underneath the video.
Okay, bang. He said, the era when things were fun and videos were entertaining. Yeah, well, they were back in those days, Don't Lose My Number in particular is a combination of various videos.
It's like 8 videos in one, pretty much.
Yeah. So that was good fun to make, because we didn't know what the song was about particularly, or I didn't, and so we did it about a lot of things. Just noticed Pierce Brosnan was the sheriff. No, he wasn't the sheriff. No, it was our production man, Morris Lyder, who was the sheriff. You know, in that song in particular, everybody that was in it were from the band or the crew.
Yeah.
My wife was in it, Jill, at the time, and David GWR. I think Phil should be a judge on the UK's X Factor. Well,
would you ever do that?
No. I've probably been asked, but no.
I like the last one from Hobo Poke Maniac.
Yeah, in 1991, when I was only 15, my girlfriend made fun of me and broke up with me for liking Phil Collins. Nowadays, if my girl don't like Phil, she can kick rocks. I'd rather be alone than with someone who doesn't appreciate good music. Thanks a ton, Phil. Well, thank you, Hobo. That's very, very nice of you to say so.
That was episode 1 of the A to Z of Phil Collins, and that was my song, Don't Lose My Number, which brings this episode to a close. I hope you enjoyed listening. In the next episode, we'll tackle songs, letter E to H, and we'll tackle Easy Lover, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, and Gorillas. So do hit subscribe and make sure you get the next show. Hopefully, see you then. Thanks.